hope you're all having a cool Tuesday. I know, I had an excellent morning because first thing I saw when I woke up was I saw a news article of in Taiwan, this is gonna start off sounding really bad. In Taiwan, there was a knife attack, okay? And this guy was attacking people with a knife. And a bunch of people banded together and, like, restrained him, right? And so they were giving awards to all these brave people, right? Who got together and restrained this crazy knife attacker dude. And they did an interview, and one of the guys who participated in restraining this crazy knife attacker, he said, "It's what Himmel the hero would have done." And that was like the first news article I read today off Reddit, and I thought it was hilarious. What a giga chat. Absolute giga chat. I'm sure the entire press conference, everyone was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But that is hilarious and great and so based. So that was the first thing that I saw today, and it was a great way to start my day. I wish that if I ever get my, 5 minutes in the limelight, I can say something just as based. I mean, that's like, on one hand it's sort of cringe, but on the other hand, like, oddly great words to live by, right? Like, if you just go through your day and you live your life constantly asking yourself, like, what would Himmel do? You're probably gonna live a good life. Hold on, I think my... Okay, I was worried my phone was lagging, my face tracking. But it seems good for now. But yeah, what an absolute Chad. Absolute legend to say something like that on basically, I guess, TV. Hilarious. And if any of you don't get the reference, it's a Freerun reference. It's sort of like if you were to be like, oh, it's what Obi-Wan Kenobi would have done. Which, again, maybe sounds a little cringe, but still hilarious and super based. Well, whoops. But yeah. So today we'll be talking about electromagnetism. It's something I've already sort of talked about on some Discords, but it's a cool topic, and part of it is that I have a final this weekend, so I didn't want to spend too much time and energy prepping a crazy lesson today. Hey, Skill Issue, how are you? What are you cooking? But yeah, I mean, I've got a final this weekend for a class, so sort of trying to take it easy on myself mentally, not go too crazy. The other thing I was contemplating talking about was there's some material science stuff that I was interested in talking about, and I was like really game to do it, but when I thought about the notes and how to display the notes, I think I'm gonna need some good practice, because there are some really important diagrams that I need to show for that topic. It's atomic structures and packing efficiency, which I think is like oddly cool. It sounds like the stuff that no one ever wants to know about, no one's ever going to ask about. But when I did learn about it, it was like a little bit of a... like, my mind was blown. And it's really just like geometry stuff, but when you see what I'm talking about, hopefully in next week's lesson, if I get to it next week, you'll recognize how, like, oddly mind-blowing just some simple geometric concepts are. On the other hand, study, yeah. I mean, I wish I could say that the energy that would normally go into prepping a lesson is going into study, but I'm also not in super study mode. The class that I'm working on has been... I feel like I've retained the knowledge pretty well, so I'm not, like, crazy grinding the study train. If I'm being honest, what really has eaten my energy is Wuthering Waves. I grinded so much Wuthering Waves this weekend. Just hours of my life down the drain. Horrible. Video game addiction is a terrible thing. But yeah, so that's the explanation for why I'm doing the lesson I'm planning on doing today, which is electromagnetism. Like I said, it's a little bit, I don't want to say simpler than the stuff we've studied, because it's not really that much simpler, but the concepts involved are more broad and more applicable to other things, I think. You spent 2 hours playing Civ 6 this morning? Super productive. I mean, I don't want to tell you that it's bad to play video games, because if you're getting enjoyment out of it, that is, like, productive, right? It's sort of productive to, like, derive pleasure from an activity. But I just feel like there's a bunch of stuff that I need to get done and want to get done, and it is just so hard to get the productive, like, chores and stuff done if I am constantly in video game mode. At least an A- student to spend so much time gaming. I mean, I'm in grad school. Grad school has, like, pretty rampant grade inflation, I'm not gonna lie. So, my GPA is not necessarily in danger. And part of the rampant grad school grade inflation, to my understanding, is because, like, in undergrad, you can get a C, it's fine, whatever. But in grad school, like, a C is considered a failure. You, like, fail that class if you get a C. So, they push people through with higher grades than they normally would in undergrad. I think in undergrad you could even, like, get away with D's in some classes, in upperdives. But yeah, I'm maybe not as studious as I should be, or not as diligent in my studies as I should be, but I think I pick up concepts pretty well. And that's why that's why I feel sort of comfortable trying to explain concepts to you guys, even though maybe sometimes I don't get it perfectly right. But I hope you guys will bear with me. Ooh, I'm missing the logo. Hehe. No one noticed. Hopefully. Okay, it is 7:10. I guess I'll start moving towards teaching. Looks like everyone can see. Pen worky. Quickly changing size of pen to size 10, because I definitely wish I had done that way earlier last week when I had the super messy diagrams of Doom on our memory circuit. Yeah. Let me turn down the background music a little more, maybe? How's the volume now? I'd like it so that you can still sort of hear the background music, but it definitely, my voice should definitely overpower it. Ooh, fried rice skill issue, that sounds delicious. Ash, we're in the same time zone. The stream. But, okay. So, if you're not familiar, although I suspect most of you are, if you're watching me, you're probably, like, a little bit of a science STEM-y person. But if you're not familiar, electromagnetism is sort of two fields. There's electricity, right? Because electromagnetism starts with electro. And then there's magnetism, which is sort of silly that I'm just breaking it apart for you guys because it seems somewhat obvious, but I think it's important because it's not necessarily always obvious that the two are linked. But with electricity, we're generally dealing with electrical fields. So electrical fields start with, we'll say, a charged particle. We'll start with a proton. I'm gonna try and maintain some level of color convention here. But when you have a charged particle, I know it sounds silly, but some people are just not as well informed. So breaking it down like this, I think, can be helpful to those people. But if you have a charged particle, right, we draw electric fields going from positive to negative. So with our positive particle, our electrical fields will go away from it. Okay? And that is generally indicative of if we put a positive charge there, where it would go, right? So if we put another positive charge here, it would feel a force that way. And in science and engineering, we almost always teach with what's called convention, which is that current is flowing from high electric potential to low, and it is positive charges flowing. It's important to note that, like, in real life, that's not how it works. Real life, it is electrons flowing, so negative charges flowing from low potential to high potential. But because when we sort of created this science, we didn't know the truth of it, we just picked positive charges flowing, and we've just kept that convention ever since. Is the stream better for you, Ash? I guess I shouldn't ask in... Let me quickly ask in YouTube chat. I don't know if Twitch viewers also had rip stream. Okay. I hope my internet is not really too bad. But sorry if there's any losses. The VOD will go up. Okay, so other part, magnetism. So with magnetism, we have magnetic field lines. So we start with a bar magnet. One side is labeled north, the other side is labeled south. And magnetic field lines go on the outside of the magnet, they go from north to south. Right? And it is also important to note, on the inside of the magnet, they go, south to north, but that just completes the loop, right? So magnetic field lines are always a loop. Okay? Now, these two things, electricity and magnetism, don't seem inherently linked. And it's because they sort of aren't, right? So in this situation on the left, where we have the proton just sitting there, that creates no magnetic fields, right? So this electrical side does not create magnetic fields on its own in this state. And this magnetic side, I'm actually going to quickly switch to using green for magnetic fields. And maintain some level of color convention, because this will get messy if I don't. And the magnet in this situation also doesn't create an electric field on its own. So why do we link these two things together? Well, actually, when you have a charge, when it's stationary, it doesn't create magnetic fields. But if you move your charge, right, and we will call that current, right? Current is moving charges. Then you actually create a magnetic field, right? So by moving a charge, you can go from electricity to magnetism, right? By creating a magnetic field. And if you move a magnetic field, you can create an electric field. So in that way, they're linked because moving charges create magnetic fields, and moving magnetic fields create electric fields. So that's why we tied them together. All right? Now, in terms of the specifics, with this situation, where we have a moving charge, right? And we're going to try and keep this connotation, or this convention color scheme of red will be current, or the direction charges move. Again, with the convention that we're moving positive charges. If we have moved this positive charge up, what direction are we going to make magnetic fields in? There's technically a bunch of equations in science and math for deriving, the exact positions and strength of all the magnetic fields that we get from moving this charge. But I'm not here to teach you math, so we're gonna go with our handy-dandy engineering tricks. And for this topic, what we use is what's called the right-hand rule, alright? So, it is important, by the way, that when you use the right hand, when you use the right-hand rule, you use your right hand. If you use your left hand, it won't work, so just remember that. I remember in high school, I was taking a test, and because I was holding the pencil in my right hand, I used my left hand, and I got the question wrong. But so how do we create this right-hand rule to describe the direction of magnetic fields when we have current flowing? Okay. So what you're gonna do for the right-hand rule of a moving charge creating magnetic fields is you're gonna make a thumbs up. Right? Thumbs up. I know my art's not that great, but it should get the job done, right? And you're gonna make your thumbs up with your thumb pointing in the direction that your current is flowing. Alright? Your fingers, you notice, curl when you make a thumbs up, and those describe the direction of the magnetic field. So the magnetic field curls like this, and it curls around the charge, right? So in this situation, where the charge is moving up, our magnetic field behind it is going to the left, and then on the left, it's moving towards us, and then between the charge and us, it's moving to the right, and then on the right, it's moving like into the page. Sorry, you're gonna have to try and visualize the 3D, but remember that this is in 3-dimensional space. Okay, so this is our first right-hand rule for electromagnetism. It defines the direction that we get a magnetic field when we have moving charges. And again, the magnetic field is a loop, right? Just like the magnets. Magnetic fields always go in a loop. Okay. So, if we have a wire that's conducting a lot of current, right? It has many charges that are all going continuously up in constant current. Then we'll have a lot of these magnetic fields doing the same thing, going around it. Now, something to note is the magnetic field technically extends off into infinity. It does not stop. It just goes to the end of the universe. It just extends perpetually. It just gets weaker as it gets further away. So how you can sort of visualize it is a stronger magnetic field would have magnetic field lines closer together, right? So I'm just going to do the bottom layer, otherwise it's going to get messy. And as you get further and further away, the magnetic field lines get more and more spaced out. And that indicates the magnetic field getting weaker. Okay, this is really messy, of course, as you can see. And we don't want to end up drawing a bunch of loops, and visualizing it with 3D is like a little bit hard. It requires a lot of perspective into this. So let's create a notation for our 3D, right? So normally we have like a left and right axis, an up and down axis. We need an axis that goes like into and out of the page. So how are we going to draw that? Well, we use a notation where we use two symbols, a dot representing it coming out of the page, and an X representing it going into the page, okay? Now, if you're ever confused on this, what I like to think of is I like to think of like an arrow, an archer shooting an arrow. Skill issue, so it circles around your fingers clockwise. Where did you get clockwise from? I sort of don't know when you said it, but if you can clarify when talking about, like, the thumbs up, then maybe I can, what you're talking about, then maybe I can provide some assistance. But anyway, with this notation, I always remember it's like an arrow. So if an archer is shooting an arrow at you coming out of the page, you see like the tip of the arrow, right? Just the dot. And if the archer is shooting the arrow away from you, you see like the fletchings. Okay, so that's like away from you. Okay, so now with this notation, we can clean up our drawing. Our wire. Our current going up. And then to the left of the wire, our magnetic fields come out of the page. Perpendicular and anti-clockwise to the current. Yes, skill issue. I think anti-clockwise is sort of dependent on, like, which side you're looking at. Anti-clockwise is if the current was, like, coming towards you, right? So if you make your thumbs up and you point your thumb at yourself, then it would be anti-clockwise, right? And if the current is going away from you, you'd point your thumb away from you, and then it would be, like, clockwise from your point of view. Okay. But with our wire, we have, on one side, magnetic fields coming out, on the other side, magnetic fields going in. Okay. So, what happens if we curve our wire, right? If we curve our wire, now the current flows, it still follows the wire. Our magnetic fields still stay relatively the same, right? Where one side is going into the page. And the other side is coming out of the page. But you'll notice on the inside, they're closer packed, right? They are closer to each other. And on the outside, they're more spread out, right? So like I said, magnetic fields are stronger when the field lines are packed in together. And they're weaker when they're more spread apart. So the magnetic field going into the page when it's looped is significantly stronger than on the outside where it's coming out of the page. Now, if we continue this trend of it curving, of our wire curving, and we actually make a complete loop, what happens? So our current follows the loop. And again, using our right-hand rule, we can find that at this point, on this side, the magnetic field goes into the page, and on the outside, it comes out, right? And that is the same all around the loop. So when we make a loop of current, the inside of the loop will go one way magnetically, and the outside of the loop will go another way magnetically. And we can magnify that by stacking loops on loops on loops. So how we do that is we create like a coil, right? So think of a spring. And forgive my terrible drawing, we're going to try and do more perspective drawing, right? If you're looking down like the middle of a spring, right? On the far end, it like looks tiny. And then as it gets closer to you, it like looks bigger, right? So again, weird perspective type things. So this is like looking down the middle of a spring, and the current is following it. Right? whole time it's getting closer to us. You'll notice that every time on the bottom, as it's winding towards us, the bottom is always going this way, and the top is always going that way. Now let's quickly change perspectives. I know this is like still confusing. We'll change perspectives to a perspective that maybe is a little bit easier to visualize the spring. So if you have a person standing on this side, and they're looking at the spring from that side, right? Then the spring's gonna look something like this, where, you know, one side is gonna look closer. This is gonna indicate this like side that's closer to the viewer, right? And then the other side's gonna look further away, right? So close, far. So the farther side is gonna be, you know, perspective-wise, you're gonna see it masked by the closer side where they connect, right? And current is going like this, right? At the top, it's going into the page, right? Because every time at the top, it's going, you know, away from the viewer. And at the bottom, it's always getting close to the viewer. So in the bottom, it is coming out of the page. And that's really the important stuff, is you just need to know which side is coming out of the page and which side is going into the page. This whole, like, which way it's zigzagging doesn't actually matter too much, and I'll show you the analysis on why. So if we look at a cross section, right, so we ignore these, like, close and near sides, we just look at right down the middle, right? So all we're gonna see is the cross section of, there will be a wire carrying current away on top, and towards us on the bottom. Okay? And we draw the magnetic fields for how these wires would work, right? So the top wires carry current away from us. So if we do the right hand rule, and we make our thumbs up, and we look at the direction our fingers curve, the magnetic fields go this way. Right? And then the one next to it will have the same orientation for its magnetic fields. But you'll note these two go opposite directions. So they're generating magnetic fields that go against each other, and they sort of cancel each other out, right? And it's the same here. Right? These ones cancel each other out. So what you'll end up left with is you end up with a loop that goes like that on the top side. You can do the same sort of analysis on the bottom side, right? And when it's coming out of the page, when the current's coming out of the page, the magnetic field lines go in these directions. That would be if our thumbs up had the thumb pointing towards us. And again, these middle ones kill each other, right? So this bottom set of the coil creates a magnetic field that goes this way. Okay? So if we clean up this diagram and we remove all the, like, dead magnetic fields that cancel each other out, you end up looking like this. Okay, so you'll notice everything on the inside points one way, everything on the outside loops the other way. And if you're really keen, you'll notice that it looks just like the bar magnet, right? It's the same as if we had the coils where we had current going into the page on top and current coming out of the page on bottom. It's the same thing, right? So this shape with the spring, the coil, we call it a solenoid, and it is effectively just a bar magnet, right? But there's two notable differences from the bar magnet. First of all, the solenoid is empty, right? On the bar magnet, those magnetic field lines go through the middle, are like through the magnet, so you can't like pass through them because you're literally running into the magnet. But this has empty space here, right? That's the first difference. Second difference is this magnet, the solenoid, is only a magnet when we run current through it. Okay? And that's important because we can effectively turn this magnet on and off. Alright? So just remember that, and we'll exploit that. The other thing that you should note is there is an easy way to tell which way the bar magnet equivalent of this is. And that is our second right-hand rule. And so for this second right-hand rule, you're again going to make your thumbs up. But this time, instead of pointing with your thumb to find the answer, what you actually do is you use the curl of your fingers, right? So what you do is you orient your fingers in the direction of the current for the solenoid. So like how we've drawn this, our right hand for this solenoid would be a solenoid that has current coming out of the page on the left and into the page on the right. Right? Because that's how the fingers curl. Out of the page on the left and into the page on the right. And then the direction your thumb is the way that the magnetic field goes on the inside of the battery. Or you could think of it as the direction of your thumb is the north on the magnet. Right? And then outside of the solenoid, because it loops, you know, then we end up with going the other direction. But inside the solenoid, it's the direction your thumb points. Okay? So, onwards towards the make cannon go boom. How do we exploit these two interesting differences from regular magnets to make something that can launch a projectile? Okay? So if we have a normal magnet and we take iron, right? Iron is attracted to the magnet, so it'll get sucked towards the magnet, right? We can do the same thing with our solenoid, right? We can make our solenoid with its magnetic field lines. So this is to represent that it is just a magnet right now. And if we put a block of iron here, it'll get sucked towards the solenoid, right? The solenoid will suck the iron towards it. When it gets to the solenoid, it'll still have momentum, so it'll continue going that way. But you'll note, after it passes through the solenoid, when it's on the other side, the solenoid is not going to push the iron away from it, right? Magnets never push iron away. They only pull it towards them. So as it passes through, when it gets on the other side, the solenoid's actually going to start sucking it back. The easy solution to this is to take advantage of one of our unique traits of solenoids over magnets and turn the solenoid off, right? So what we do is, when our projectile is before the solenoid, we have it on, it gets sucked in, right? And as it reaches the middle, we turn the solenoid off, and then it just gets carried by its momentum further on, right? In that way, the solenoid only speeds it up, it doesn't slow it down, right? So we just have continuous acceleration from this one solenoid. Now, if we want to make the bullet go faster, we can actually do this multiple times. So if we have our bullet, our iron bullet, and to ease the process of drawing the solenoids, I'll just draw them as, spirals, since that's what they are. We have one. We have another. We have another. And all we do is we turn on solenoid 1. It pulls the projectile in. We turn off solenoid 1. Momentum carries it further. Then we turn on the second one. And that again pulls it to speed it up even more. And as it reaches the middle, we turn off solenoid 2. And then we turn on solenoid 3. And that again pulls the projectile faster and faster, every stage speeding it up. And then at the end, we just turn off solenoid 3, and our bullet goes whoosh, and it flies away. Okay? So, this is what's called a coil gun, right? It's called a coil gun because it's made of a bunch of coils. I've also heard it called a Gauss rifle. And I think technically, according to Wikipedia, it's not a Gauss rifle because a Gauss rifle is made of permanent magnets, but... Oops, where did we go? There is a commercial product made by... I think their name is Arc Flash Labs. Where are you? Wow, not helpful at all. Give me 1 second. Copy image. And this is what they call the GR1, GR being Gauss rifle. And you can see it. You can physically see the architecture of 1 stage, 2 stages, 3 stages. I'll use red so you can see. 4 stages, 5, 6, 7. Each of these is a capacitor that charges the solenoids, which you can see the coils here. Right? And it launches a projectile. So that's the GR1. It's a commercial product. Although I don't see why anyone would buy this, but I just think it's sort of cool that, this is like a real actual idea that people have made. But on to railguns, because you'll notice that this whole idea has coils, but it does not have rails, right? So what is a railgun? Because this is not a railgun. Let's talk about that. So, how does a railgun work, and what are the rails? And to start off talking about that, it's time to introduce the third right-hand rule. Okay, so, if you remember, our first right-hand rule involved charges moving and creating magnetic fields, right? Since they move and create magnetic fields, that means they can exert force on magnets, right? Because if you have a magnet here and it feels a magnetic field, it'll get attracted or repelled, depending on how it is, or it'll get realigned, right? So, since moving charges can exert a force on magnets, if you're familiar with Newton's third law, the law of equal and opposite forces, that means that there has to be a force that goes the other way, right? So moving charges can exert a force on magnets, right? That means magnets can also exert a force back on the moving charges. So we're going to talk about the third right-hand rule, which talks about that, right? So unlike the other right-hand rules, this right-hand rule does not use the thumbs up. You may see some people do this funky looking physics gangster sign. Right? You might see people use this funky looking physics gangster sign for this rule. I don't like this, actually, because just the way that the fingers point sort of confuses me. I get confused between which finger is which. So what I do is I use a high five hand, right? So when you make your high five hand, it's just your normal thumb again, and all your fingers point one way. Excellent art skills as always, Belle. You're the best. Okay, so how does this work? What you do is you orient your fingers in the direction of the magnetic field. So if you have a magnetic field going this way, that would be for this orientation. And then you orient your thumb in the direction that the charged particle is moving. Okay? Whoops. Now, the force that the charged particle will experience will be whichever direction your palm is. So in this case, right, if your thumb is up and your fingers point to the left, it'll go out of the page, right? Our charged particle will experience a force out of the page. If you had a charged particle that was in a field and the field was coming out of the page, right? Magnetic field all out of the page. And you had a charged particle going this way. If you make your high five hand, you point your fingers at yourself, and you point your thumb in the direction the charged particle is going in, it's going to experience a force downwards, right? And so instead of going straight, it's actually going to curve down a little. It's going to feel a force that way. It's going to curve down a little. It's going to experience a force that way. It's going to curve down a little. So when you have charged particles moving through a magnetic field, if they're unrestrained and they can just go whichever direction, they're going to curve. Okay? But that is the right-hand rule that describes which way the force goes when you move a charged particle through a magnetic field. How does this relate to railguns? Right? So, like I said before, railguns need rails, so we'll start with that. Our rails on our railgun, we'll call one rail the high potential rail, one rail the low potential rail. It really matters, right? High, low. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect them to a battery. Now you'll note, if you're familiar with electrical engineering or circuits in general, that there can't be current flow because this is not a complete circuit, right? This is just two pieces of metal attached to the two leads of a battery, but since there's no connection, current can't flow. So how are we going to make current flow? We're obviously just going to add another piece of metal, but we're going to do something special. The piece of metal we're going to add, connect them, and close our circuit, is going to be our bullet. And that sounds sort of wild because you're like, why do we need current passing through the bullet? We don't need to charge the bullet. There's some interesting physics here, right? So our current, if you remember, flows high to low. And with the battery, it actually flows like this, right? It's a loop. Okay? If you remember, this loop is a solenoid, right? So, since we have a loop of current, we have a magnetic field. Right? So, which direction does this magnetic field point? If we use our second right-hand rule, and we curl our thumbs up, fingers in the direction of the current, and we see which direction our thumb is pointing, we will see that inside loop, our magnetic field points into the page. Okay? Outside the loop, our magnetic field points out of the page. Right? But remember, what we talked about when we have curled wires is inside the curl is generally a stronger magnetic field than outside the curl, because all these fields are tighter packed, okay? So on any border scenario, right, along the wire, right along the border between outside and inside, since the inside fields are packed closer together, the inside fields sort of win that contest, right? So what we care about is we care about the inside field. So if we go back to our diagram of the railgun, we have our top rail, our bottom rail, whoops, and our bullet, and our current flows like this, right? And we care about the stronger magnetic field, which goes into the page. You'll notice through the bullet, the current is flowing down. So we have a current flowing down, and we have a magnetic field going into the page. What happens when we use our right-hand rule, right? Because we have a charged particle moving through a magnetic field. It should feel a force, right? So if we use our right-hand rule, and we make our high five sign with magnetic field into the page, right? And our charged particle is the direction of our thumb, it goes down. The direction of the force that the particle feels goes this way. So that's right, with our railgun, we have the battery again, rails, our magnetic field into the page, and our current down. It feels a force going that way. And that's right, that force is what accelerates the bullet. So, if we want to accelerate this bullet really, really, really fast, what we do is we just put a really, really large voltage here, right? We make this battery really, really big. That flows a ton of current through. That large amount of current generates really big magnetic field and really big current. And if we have big magnetic field, big current, we end up with big force. And that shoots the bullet really, really fast. The Navy's railgun, to my understanding, could shoot bullets Mach 7. Complete ridiculous amount of energy. There's like, and I don't even know the specifics of how efficient it was, but I am very willing to bet that only a small fraction of the energy went into the bullet moving. And a lot of the energy went into heat dissipation in the rails and in the wires. Because I know that early prototypes, we passed so much current through these that the rails melted. So you had a one-shot railgun. But this is how railguns work, right? We take advantage of this electromagnetism. We generate a really big magnetic field and a really big current. And those two combined create a really big force. And that's all you need. You just need a really big force. Big force will accelerate your mass really quickly. And we can send that thing zooming. Right? I think it's a super cool idea. I think it's kind of crazy because in high school, we had like physics problems where it's like, oh, you've got a circuit that basically does the same thing, but it's just like a small piece of metal. What force does it feel? And we ended up with really tiny forces when we did those calculations. But some crackhead out there was like, let's make it bigger. Me make big gun, unga bunga. And we ended up with something that shoots Mach 7. I guess that's sort of what you expect from the US. But This is some pretty crazy engineering. That someone went and they just took these basic principles of electromagnetism. This is stuff you can learn in like high school physics. And they made the big Unga Bunga cannon. But I think it's super cool. It's a nice little application of practical, simple fundamentals. And I think that's really important to remember is when you build stuff, you don't need to get too complex. You just need to keep your fundamentals and have a good idea, right? Because there's nothing crazy about this. Like I said, this is the same sort of setup we have in high school physics problems. And they just took those simple, basic high school principles and they built something cool. And that's what I think really is what engineering's all about, because you're gonna take things that seem unreliable or messy or simple, and you're gonna make something really cool. Something robust, something powerful. Maybe sometimes you'll make things that aren't robust or powerful, but you can make something new. So yeah, that's the lesson for today. That's the basics of electromagnetism with the 3 right-hand rules. And that's how we ended up with railguns. But now I feel like I need to go watch that anime about the railgun girl. I still haven't seen it. Oh, Ash, you didn't take physics? You took chemistry but not physics? Skill issue. That's a really interesting thing that you point out with the idea of making it bigger and launching satellites. Because I think I did read there was some company planning on trying to do something like that for orbital launches to send supplies up into orbit. Which kind of crazy, right? But I've heard of other crazy like orbital launch ideas. I've heard like the idea of like a big spinner, right? So it's like an axis and it spins a little thing, right? Really, really fast. And it releases it at a certain point to just launch it into space because it just spun really fast. If I understood the idea correctly. I might be completely misremembering, but people have some like wild ideas. Right? I mean, they sound wild until they come into existence, and then you're like, damn. They made it work, right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you're like, let's launch rockets and have them land, people would have been like, no. We just launch them over the ocean and we have them parachute down. But no, Elon Musk made it happen. Not that he was like the engineer, but, you know, SpaceX made it happen. We do crazy shit all the time. Right? Mach 7. Insane. Also insane, you know, the Navy was making the railguns, but I think they gave up. What they plan on replacing them with is hypersonic missiles. For the record, supersonic is anything over Mach 1. Hypersonic is defined as Mach 5 through Mach 25. And you can split that up into, it's like normal hypersonic. And then there's like high hypersonic, which I think is 10 to 25. Right? Normal hypersonic is 5 to 10. That's I guess is what's replacing the railgun in our budget is missiles that fly at least Mach 5. Like the railgun already is like quite a destructive weapon, and that shoots Mach 7. And I don't know why we decide we need missiles that shoot at basically the same speed, because, you know, this was just a bullet. This was just a piece of metal that we flung really fast, and it had insane destructive power. So now they're making missiles, which are again pieces of metal at the same speed, but they also explode at... Do we need that? I highly doubt it. Yeah, Ash, Mach 27. Or not 27, 25. I doubt any of the current ideas for hypersonic missiles are 25. I suspect they're probably like 7 to 10. But we're at a point where I'm like, has science gone too far? Why do we need this in our life? And it's because some classic United States person is like, let's go bigger, let's go faster, more. Absolute lunatic. That person was not living life by the right questions. That person did not ask themselves, what would Himmel the hero do? That person was just like, let's go insane. But yeah, electromagnetism, oddly cool. I mean, I never really, when I was growing up, I never really thought I'd be much of an electrical kind of gal. But the more I learned, the more I felt like electrical is really interesting stuff. That is not the same for some of the other branches of engineering. I still find chemistry like awful. But even though I've always sort of identified as a mechanical kind of gal, I found a really high interest in this electrical stuff. And this is like still pretty mechanical, right? This is like classical Newtonian physics of just motion. But what we've done is some really crazy stuff. But yeah, that's a lesson for today. I know some of you probably already basically knew it because I basically talked about this stuff in Discord before. But like I said, I didn't really have a ton of energy to whip up a new lesson. Next week, hopefully we'll do something super new to y'all with like the material science stuff like I said. Hopefully I can get some practice rounds in and get some good notes prepped. Yeah, I mean, so preoccupied with whether we could that we didn't stop to think if we should. Exactly. Yeah, of course, Perry. I'm glad to have you. But it is like super weird with the hypersonic stuff because I remember I was in college. We'll pretend I was in college very recently and that I'm not a hag. But when I was in college, I remember I was at like one of my senior design courses and the professor was talking about how the US whatever Air Force or Navy or whatever was taking bids for research proposals, and he was telling us about a proposal for a hypersonic missile. He was like, oh, I have a plan. What we're gonna do is we're gonna deal with the heat by making, our heat dispersal system with a heat sink, and you normally do like water cooling to move heat around in your computer, but this thing's gonna be super hot. We're gonna do liquid cooling, but our liquid will be metal. That's how intense this is. They're liquid cooling with liquid metal. Was the idea. That's how hot that stuff is gonna go when it's like hypersonic. Crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just the idea that like, you have your wing shape. We'll talk about planes one day. I don't know when. That'll probably be like, that's a really cool special lesson in my heart because that was one of the like first cool things I learned when I was a little tiny, cute little kid bell. Was like how planes work. But the idea is just like there's so much air passing over it that it gets so hot that you can melt low melting point metals. Like you can melt, I think his plan was to melt like, oh god, I think his plan was to melt like lead. Maybe it was aluminum or tin or something. But he just had like lead inside the wing, and the heat from all that air passing over it and all the air resistance heated the lead or the aluminum or whatever. And then I think it was like there was some method for convection, or yeah, convection to that just like naturally floated around to spread the heat out to the heat sinks. Oh, Ash, you just started Woo-Wah? Ooh, I mean... I've been playing every day. I think I spent like 20 hours playing it this weekend. Just all that time down the drain. It is super fun. If you want to add me, I don't know if you're in North America. If you are, we can like add each other. You just send me, or I can send you my code on Discord or whatever. If any of you want to play or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll play Woo on stream much, because I feel like if I set that precedent, I'll be playing it on stream every week. And I don't know if that's what I really want. I think I want to be a variety streamer and play like a lot of different games. Part of being a streamer was like it was a big incentive for me to try new games and play new games that I haven't played before. So if you look at the schedule that I post on Twitter, or I still need to put it up on my Discord. But this week we're planning on playing Hollow X Break, which I only saw because I saw Asmongold playing, but it looks super fun. It's a fan-made game about Hololive, and that looks super fun. We'll do that Friday night, I think, because Friday I have to stream a little shorter because my final's on Saturday. And then Saturday we're gonna play more Jedi Fallen Order, and then hopefully I can finish Jedi Fallen Order either this week or next week, and we can move on to more games. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun streaming, chatting, doing these lessons. I mean, the lessons, I won't lie, give me like a bit of anxiety, but I think I'm slowly working my way up to being better. And I'm glad you guys are patient and patiently, dealing with my shit as I work this stuff out. But yeah, I'm having a good time as a streamer, and I hope you guys will continue to enjoy watching me. Anyway, it has been an hour. I feel like I should stream longer, but I don't really have a game planned. I'm wondering if any of you guys play chess, because what I have wanted to do is I want to like become a better chess player, which is weird because I've never talked about this on stream before about playing chess. And I don't really play chess. I mainly do puzzles. But eventually puzzles has to translate into being better at chess, right? But maybe we'll do some chess puzzles for now. Give me a sec while I swap my OBS. Yeah, if you guys have any engineering topics that you want to hear about, definitely also let me know about that, because I have like a list of things that I already have sort of ideas for how I would teach, but I also want to like teach stuff that you guys want to learn about. Are you guys good chess players? Skill issue says 2.5 brain cells, which might be 1 more brain cell than me when playing chess. But I don't know. Ash, you've played since you were a kid. Does that mean you're good, or does that just mean you've played a lot? Okay, OBS capture. Oop. Puzzles. Yes? Do some rated. SR-71. Yeah, it is an SR. I am glad you noticed the little Easter eggs. The SR-71 is... It's not my favorite plane, but it's up there, right? That plane is like man's gift to speed. Again, it's some situation where it's like maybe humanity has gone too far. But that's one of my favorite planes. My actual favorite plane is the F-22 Raptor. Because that is a sexy looking plane. Do you have a favorite plane? We check EOs here. And what? We're in danger. EOs here. You. Guys, I can't believe I'm stuck on a 992 puzzle right now. I made this Bell account on chess.com because I didn't want, if I ever played chess on stream, to dox myself with my main account. My main account's puzzle rating is like 2K. So now I'm wondering where my life went wrong. What other options do we have? Here, 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 here. Don't have a favorite plane, but I find a few concept planes cool. Ooh, okay. Anything specific you want to mention? In terms of concept planes? Has to be something else, right? Wow. I don't know why I thought so much, but I guess it was the right move. You won some competitive events, Ash. So, like, did you have a rating in high school? Okay, you don't have to answer. But how long ago was high school for you? Because, you know, if high school was relatively recent, then you might still be, like, really sharp, right? Or maybe... Nah, I don't know. I don't know how good is good for you to win competitive events, but that sounds pretty intense. The whole oblique wing concept is cool. CL1201. Let me look these up real quick, Skeletu. I'm very interested in what you think of these, and what makes these interesting to you. Wait, is this... This must be a Mega Chonker's plane. Holy cow. Is this a plane to carry, like, smaller planes in it? Lockheed CL1201. Oh god, it's a design, it's to carry a 6,000 ton... Holy cow. Oh, it's a nuclear powered aircraft. Damn, this is like... This is really... Has science gone too far? Everything has science gone too far nowadays. We need to return to Unga Bunga caveman days. But that thing is fat. Have you heard of, I think the program is called NGAD now? They're, like, working on the next-gen fighters. I think they're, like, pretty interesting looking. They all remind me of darts. They're very, they're just like triangles. NGAD, Next Gen Air Dominance. I wonder how much money is being spent on stuff like that. Like, you know, US Department of Defense is probably, like, spending an unfathomable amount of money. Like, literally unfathomable. Just US things, though. Why have government-run healthcare when we can have hypersonic missiles? But, sorry, I shouldn't be political, but, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to not recognize how awful some things are in life. The new B-21 Raider. I think have is a strong word. And the B-21 Raider is for those of you who don't know, the B-21 Raider is like the new version of the B-2 bomber. Doesn't exactly fill the same role as like a fighter, right? So I don't think that's in the same vein as 6th gen fighters, or you know, the replacement for the F-22, but I think that is probably close to completion of development, though, the B-21 Raider. Ooh, I should change my Twitch thing to show chess. 1 second. So I don't mislead people. I also guess I should change the title, because we're done with the lesson. But anyone who wants to watch the lesson, the VOD will be up. I'll upload the shortened version. And I think, maybe I'm patting myself on the back too much, but I think I did a pretty okay job with this lesson. The other lessons I felt like sort of bad about. I always feel like I can improve, but I feel like I am improving, I guess is the words I should use. It's just a matter of, well, hopefully just a matter of practice. Maybe it won't be. Maybe I have some serious issues that will never get fixed, but we work to be better. That's the goal. Every day, just be a little bit better. Consistency is a big deal. And I mean, you also can't be better every time, but if you're usually at least a little bit better, then that has to add up. What would Himmel the hero do? It was a good... I'm glad you liked it, Penbu. Yeah, I think the pen size really fucked me up with the last one. And I feel really bad. Because I think that was like a really cool topic to me. And I'm sort of wondering, like, part of me is like, wait a second, I should save my really interesting lessons for when I'm a better teacher so I can really deliver them effectively. But I don't know. I feel like if there's something I'm interested in teaching, I should just teach it. It's just sort of tough. I don't want to waste the cool topics, but I also don't feel like I'm at a point where I should be leaning into the more boring topics yet. Because especially, you know, now just sort of starting out with growing a small community, I feel like putting out the sort of banger topics is a good way to create good content early and hopefully grow. Not that, like, numbers is the most important thing to me, but I would like to hopefully make good enough content that it's worth it to people to join the community and sort of become more regulars. Yeah, I probably will do some revisiting. The question is, like, how will I do it? I do think what's bound to happen is I'm bound to spout a bunch of misinformation, because I already know I've been, like, corrected a couple times. And I think what I will do is I think I'll, like, yearly do corrections. Like, at the end of the year, it'll be like, Fake Bells 2024 corrections for the year. And I'll go through and I'll nail all the things that I said wrong, that were misinformation, and correct myself. Because I think that's a good thing to do. And it's sort of cool because then you get, like, it's a little bit of a highlight video too. Revisit all the cooler stuff. Man, I really don't know what to do here. I put it here, then that's just queen takes, right? And then I go in with my queen? And then I win. Okay, that is right, okay. But yeah, I mean, I also, like I said, I have, like, a list of topics that I sort of feel like I could turn into lessons. They're not all necessarily, like, at the point where they're, like, a complete lesson. But what I am worried about is I am worried about running out of lessons. Running out of ideas to talk about. So part of me is like, man, I need to get on the game and sort of, like, do some research on cool stuff. I don't know how Faye pulls, like, interesting stuff just out all the time. That is a real talent right there. She's also super funny. Which, you know, I think in some situations I can be, like, a pretty funny person. I just don't feel like I've gotten into the mood of, or the swing of being able to do that, like, on stream. Like, if I'm just, like, sitting in a Discord call chatting with my friends, it's way easier for me to crack jokes than it is, like, here. The risk of running out of things to teach or stream is real. Yeah, I mean, it is a very real worry for me. Part of me was wondering if I should try and just do, like, stream, teach things, like, only every other week instead of every week. But I feel like that's not consistent enough to sort of build regulars. Wait, how is that wrong? Oh, it's this? Rest in peace, Ring. And don't even get me started on, like, the actual YouTube creators. Like, oh, what was his name? There's the guy who just finished, like, 10 years. And he said, okay, it's time to, like, chill, because he's been making content every week for 10 years. Not Steve Mold, it was the other guy. Shit. Anyway, but, like, I don't know how those YouTubers just, like, they find something interesting so consistently, all the time. are they just perpetually doing research? Who can say? Also, I realized my playlist ran out, and I need to make sure that I don't end up playing something that will get me DCMA'd. So one sec, while I reset it. And set it to loop. Okay. One thing I can consider is if you run out of lesson content is to do live prep research streams so you can double dip, blah blah blah. English hard. I don't even get the cop out that it's my second language because it's my first and only language. I just can't speak apparently. Bam, bam. Bam, bam. Bam. Fuck! Bad at this game. Bad at all games. Oh, it's a pin. Okay. Yeah, but maybe I don't know. I'm wondering if I should be doing sort of research on other content creators and just sort of watching more. But I feel like I've watched a lot of like before I was a streamer, of course, I was a content consumer, right? I still am a content consumer, right? And I watched a lot of just like weird, interesting educational stuff. And so I feel like I should already have built enough of a foundation and sort of database of like what that stuff should sort of look like, right? But I feel like I'm struggling to execute. And I don't know if watching more or sort of doing more research will help, or if there's some other way that I should be trying to improve. Because I want to be better. I never had chess.com premium before, so I always would end up being stuck after like a couple puzzles. And this is like, it's kind of weird being able to just keep going. It can help and you should do it, but at some point you have to actually do it. Yeah, I think you're right, Penbu. I'm a sort of analytical person, and part of me wants to just be like, there should be like a formula, right? On some level. And I wish I just understood that formula better. But that's also not necessarily true because, you know, not everything can just be boiled down to some easy idea, right? Maybe a big oversimplification. there's also some like other content that I'm like sort of iffy about. Like, karaoke sounds super fun, but I have a god-awful voice. And it's super nerve-wracking. Right? Then there's other stuff like, you know, I'd really like to do a Lego stream at some point, but using a real cam puts the fear of docs in me by quite a bit. Not that I'm like super worried about it, because I do give like, I already give like maybe more information than I should about myself, but you know, it's different from them like actually seeing my face and being able to have a face to link me to. That would be, I don't know, that makes me pretty uncomfortable. Just try and see what happens? Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what the streaming thing is for me, right? Because I don't know what's gonna happen. You know? I'm just here because it seemed like a fun, interesting thing to do, and in some sense, as weird as it sounds, I feel like this is one way that I can have like an actual impact on the world. As like weird as it sounds, right? This is where I can actually, you know, potentially spread my reach out and talk to a lot of people, essentially, right? Because normally I sort of just, you know, I go to work, come home, you know, play some games with some online friends. I do some stuff, but, you know, to make actual content and put it out on the internet, like, has the potential to reach a lot of people. Way more than anything that I would normally do. Now, is it likely to reach a lot of people? Probably not, but at least it's also lasting, right? Because if I put YouTube videos up, then, you know, someone could watch it in 5, 6, 7 years, whenever. Right? It'll be there. Not that I think anyone's going to need the information I'm spewing. I'm basically just yapping, right? Basically just yapping about things that I think are sort of cool. And if they wanted real education, I'm probably not the person for them. But, you know, spreading some cool knowledge here and there. I feel like there's a fork somewhere here with this night. Just don't know where it is. Or it's just trapped. Is it just trapped? It is. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do sort of get that, right, Penbu, in that, like, some stuff is just, it's scary and you overcome the fear. Even just teaching puts the fear of God in me. But, you know, I think it, like you said, it's important growth moments. Doing things that scare you and doing things that you either weren't able to do before or made you like really uncomfortable. But growth over time. That's maybe not exactly what I would have expected streaming to be heavily involved in. But it makes sense, right? Just because, like, that's what everything is. Also, the other thing about karaoke is, like, there's stuff with rights and not getting DCMA'd, and there's also, super embarrassing, but I'm about to expose myself that if I sing karaoke, it's probably gonna be like 80% of the time, I'm gonna think I know a song and then I'm gonna sing the wrong lyrics. Because I am terrible with stuff like that. Not that it matters, right? It's for fun. But be really awkward to like sing someone's song and then get it wrong. Especially if that's like on YouTube and then they see. Not that they ever would see, right? But if I sing like, if I cover like a VTuber song, right? There is like a possibility that they see. That is like a very real something that could actually happen. I think that would be my nightmare though. That is a super nightmare situation and very unlikely. DMCA. Oh god, I keep saying the acronym wrong, don't I? DMCA. Backing tracks. So where do you find your tracks then? Like, is there a specific site you go to ensure that what you're playing you have the rights for? You scour YouTube and check descriptions. Okay, so you just play tracks off YouTube, so you don't use another site or an app or anything like that. Okay. So does that mean you basically, every time you do a karaoke stream, you like need to have a set list basically already lined up and pre-prepped? I mean, I guess that makes sense as like probably the prudent thing to do, too. I'm probably not as planned as I should be. I should probably, like, it's sort of daunting to me to, like, pre-prep things. But I really should pre-prep more. You know, between teaching streams and just streaming in general, right? Because sometimes I haven't checked if, you know, my game is properly recording with OBS or how to set up the sources and stuff like that. I'm maybe too carefree. Huh. So you must have, you're just slowly accumulating a larger and larger list then. Which is like, it's pretty impressive. If you feel like you could take requests, it must be like quite large. Why was that? Oh, I'm bad. I also appreciate y'all just sticking around, even though me just sitting around and yapping playing chess is maybe not what you came to stream for. I actually don't know if you guys come specifically for lessons or just because you like hanging out or what, but I appreciate the support, no matter what. Gives me a lot of practice. Both talking to people and being able to just yap without them, which I think is something I really need to work on, but getting there, or getting better. Here. There you go. There you go there. That. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the support, Pendu. I like to chill if you have no idea. Oh, that's cool, Perry. I also, like... I'm glad that people are here that just want to chill, too. That means, you know, that people feel like as weird as it sounds, it's very meaningful to me that out of all the things that people could be doing, even if I'm, you know, second monitor or side tab or whatever, just background noise content, it's really meaningful to me that people are willing to tune into this when, you know, I know you guys have other things to do with your days, right? Everyone's got stuff going on. So for you to take the time to choose to come hang out it's meaningful, right? It is a very conscious decision for you to spend your literally the most limited resource you have, right? Because time is something that when you spend it, it is really impossible to get back. Although that sounds kind of morbid, but it's the truth, you know? And you don't have to have questions, Perry. If you do have questions, I'm always happy to try and help, but you know, I almost never plan on people actually having questions. You know, it's impossible to predict what will be a question. So I normally just plan on, you know, yapping about what I'm gonna yap about. And I'm prepared for the very real possibility that no one will say anything. Although, here we go. What I am starting to feel bad about is I'm starting to feel bad at chess. I feel like I should have been climbing faster than I am. It's that darn little bit of competitiveness in me that wants to be good at things even though I'm not. What do I want to yap about? I mean, mainly I yap about engineering and science and stuff, but as you heard earlier, sometimes things that really rile me up are like politics. Even though I have no business talking about politics, right? I'm not well informed enough that I deserve to have like any serious opinions, but some things bother me. I also love anime. You know, anime is really fun. I feel like it is sort of hard to talk about anime without knowing what anime you guys have watched, though. I sort of assume that you guys are like anime fans because, you know, you're watching a VTuber. But everyone's watched different stuff. But what have I watched recently that was good? I mean, I was talking about earlier the based guy who was like, what would Himmel the hero do? Or like, Himmel the hero would have done it. Because, you know, Freeman was great. And I sort of assume, like a lot of people watch Freeman because Freeman, you know, blasted off. But other stuff I've watched recently, I watched Solo Leveling. I think that was also a pretty popular one. What did I watch before that? I only recently watched Bocchi the Rock. That was also pretty popular. That was great. You haven't watched anime in roughly a year? Is that because you didn't want to? Or been too busy? Or, you know, maybe you just didn't like it, right? That's very valid too. I know it's not for everyone. But if I had insane, like, fuck you disposable income money, and I never had to work another day in my life, I suspect, like, a solid 60 to 70% of my waking time would playing games and watching anime. Wow, this is really interesting to me, that both Perry and Skillishu are not necessarily big anime people. To watch at least one anime movie on New Year's. Wait. So this was a resolution that you, like, every New Year's Day you'd watch an anime movie? Or the idea is that over the course of the year you need to watch one? You've piqued my interest. Huh. Is there anything you've wanted to watch? I know in terms of movies, I think it came out last year or the year before, Suzume came out. That was pretty good. Maybe not the best. I think if I have to really recommend one, there's one called A Silent Voice that's on Netflix, I think. A Silent Voice is a really profound one to me, because it deals with, like, maybe it's more serious than you'd like, I don't know. But it deals with, like, bullying and disabilities and, you know, teen pressures. It's a lot. Yeah, I think Silent Voice is... I won't say Silent Voice is my favorite, but it's my go-to recommendation because I think it is applicable to the most people. My actual favorite is Weathering with You. I really like Weathering with You, but I think a lot less people liked Weathering with You than, say, Your Name, which was like... Your Name was like that director's biggest, I don't know, most popular thing, from my understanding. Wolf Children? I've never heard of Wolf Children. You started My Neighbor Totoro, but haven't finished it. I think I saw My Neighbor Totoro once. And, like, it was alright, but I think I would describe myself as whelmed. Neither over nor under, just whelmed with Neighbor Totoro. But sometimes I'm not. I don't think I have the same taste as a lot of people. Because I think, what's the name? Is it? Yeah, Spirited Away. I think Spirited Away is like a. I think Spirited Away is supposed to be like supposed to be like goated tier. I think Spirited Away is just like okay. Oh, plot holes took you out of Your Name? I mean, I won't say that plot holes really pulled me out of Your Name, because I don't think I super noticed any. But Your Name did hit pretty well. It's just Weathering with You hit better for me. Weathering with You, that really, really struck a chord with me. Fist of the North Star and Ninja Scroll looks cool. I haven't heard of either of those. Let me Google really quick. Parent-teacher interviews, skill issue. Why do you have to prep for parent-teacher interviews? You have a thing for battle anime. Like, you like the action, or you just like anime that battle is sort of a theme? Because, like, 86, not a movie, that 86 is a series. 86 is like a war drama. That was pretty good. If you like actual like battle scenes, you like the action, I mean, it's very hard to beat. The obvious Crunchyroll recommendation, Demon Slayer, is very hard to beat. There's like a ton of action animes, but I don't know. As a war drama, I think 86 was pretty good. I guess, in some sense, Attack on Titan's also like a sort of war drama thriller type thing. And I guess Attack on Titan sort of clears, but 86 just has different tones. Wait. Skill issue. You go to your parent-teacher interviews? Like, as the student, you're allowed to be there? Like, when there were parent-teacher things for me, like, I just stayed at home and my parents went into them. No, I mean, maybe, I mean, it sort of makes sense that you probably should have the child there, but that was never the case for me and my schools. You like a flare between, or balance between flare and actual combat. Ooh. I mean, if you like actual combat and martial arts, I think it's called Baki, is like, the whole thing about Baki is it's like, how am I supposed to understand it? I haven't watched it, I've just heard. Baki is where Dragon Ball Z is not about fighting, is a show about people who like to fight. Baki is a show about fighting, so it's like very, very involved with like the specific technical details of the actual fighting. It does look pretty bizarre though. In terms of technical knowledge of fighting, what am I thinking of? What's a good one? It's so hard because I feel like a ton of them have like pseudo technical knowledge, where it's like, oh yeah, the strategy of course is blah 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 blah. But that's not, like, a lot of the times that's just sort of like fake, made up stuff by writers. You've heard Baki fighting a praying mantis. His hat. Huh. I mean, yeah, skill issue, that's sort of how it is, which is super weird, right? Like, Demon Slayer, there's literally, like, it's low-key, not even really a spoiler. There's one part of the fight where one of the characters, his literal mental strategy is just like, okay, my plan is to just do as much damage to the enemy as possible. And it's sort of like, thanks. Thanks, genius. I didn't realize that the idea was to hurt the enemy. Like, come on. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Clearly needed to be a master swordsman to understand that idea. How do we... Wait. We're not white, we're black. We take... Wait, what? Games... Oh my god, I can't believe I wasted so much time. Partially because I was talking, but... That's a really awkward one to waste so much time on. Do. My plan is to hit harder? Exactly. Like when you play... I don't know if any of you play MMOs where you like have to raid or whatever. But at a certain point, if you're like doing group content in MMOs, I feel like it always devolves to like, okay, the plan is to like sort of do mechanics, but the biggest plan is to just do a lot of DPS. That's the secret. We kick the shit out of the boss. And if we kick the shit out of the boss with enough force, it doesn't matter if we do the mechanics wrong. Silly. One, kill all enemies, step 2, victory. Exactly. It's certainly a strategy. I don't know if any of you ever played League of Legends, but there's also the fucking meme where, like, you'd be playing and they'd be like, I have a plan. We'll win. The secret is we just destroy the enemy nexus before they destroy our nexus. Easy. Winning strategy. Every time I think about League, I think, oh man, that sounds so fun. I should go back to playing League. And then I also am like, every time I play League, I turn into a terrible person. So, no more League for me. For my own safety. And for the safety of people around me, to be honest. In order to win, you must first win. Literal Sun Tzu quote right there. I mean, that guy... Some of the stuff he says is fire. Other stuff he says is like... I wonder if he was like on crack. Right? I think one of his quotes is like, wait by the river, and eventually your enemies will just float down it dead or something like that. And I'm like, what the hell? That sounds not helpful at all. I also don't know what like the takeaway from that is like the takeaway that eventually they like everyone just fucks themselves up, which I mean is a sort of valid takeaway, right? Everyone's just gonna eventually screw up themselves. But I don't know if that is the war advice you want to give people. Although, at the same time, I'm also not, I'm not a war tactician, so, I don't have the right to speak on what is good advice. Not even doing while playing chess. I don't know if chess actually translates to any sort of advantage on, an actual battlefield. This is definitely more of, a specialized skill set, only applicable to some people, but... For some reason, people think that this means smart. People have that misconception about a lot of things. If I talk to people out in the world and they're like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I'm a professional engineer. They're like, oh, you must be smart. And I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. I unga bunga all the time. All the people in your extension math class play chess. Okay, extension math. What is extension math? Is that outside of school? Or is that a term for honors or AP or something like that? Real-time chess variant called Kung Fu chess? Yeah, so is it real-time, you're controlling all the pieces at the same time, actively? I think I've seen some version where you move them and they have cooldowns. But I've also seen some version where someone made chess, and every time you attack, you're temporarily in, third-person shooter mode as that piece. And, the queen's got, a rocket launcher or something, but the pawn has, a pistol, and you, literally duke it out piece versus piece. 5 of you bumped up a year, so you're in the... Oh, so you're ahead, then. On your, math. Good for you. It never mattered, but it mattered to me that, when I was in middle school or high school or whatever, I think it was middle school, my sister ended up bumped ahead in math, and then I didn't. I'm the younger of the two. And that bothered me. But I came to realize that I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because it is good that you are a year ahead in math. But my sister ended up a year ahead in math, and by the time we finished high school, right, she was still ahead of me, right, in that she was older. She had to... I don't know how familiar you are or how applicable the AP courses are, but for calculus, there's Calc AB and Calc BC, right? So she was a year ahead, so she got to her calculus, I think, junior year. Where I got to it senior year. But she had to do AB before she did BC because she just couldn't keep up. And then because of that, and because I was strong enough in my math that I could just skip AB and go to BC, I caught up to her in the end. So I feel like in the end, it wasn't really that meaningful. Right? Sorry, weird, complete yap tangent that probably is near meaningless to all of you. But, I don't know. Sometimes there are things that I thought wow, this matters at the time. And then when you grow up and you're like, wow, that mattered exactly 0, right? Like, finish high school and you're like applying to colleges and you're like, oh, my SAT score is blah blah blah, my ACT score is blah blah blah. You get into college and you're like, no one gives any fucks. Meaningless number. It's the cooldown one, Penbu. Maybe I'll play it on stream sometime. I'll have to get better at chess first, though. Go here. Has to take. Then we farm. Yeah. Skill issue, I saw the FPS chess on, I found it was on Reddit. Which I find like a lot of weird game recommendations on Reddit. I don't know if any of you have heard of what I think I've seen relatively recently in the past few months is someone made like a graphic of just like, it was like a dinosaur holding a sword. It was just like a 3D animation, right? And then someone else told them to make a game about it. They're like, this would be such a cool game idea. And now it's like, there's some game called, I think it's called Dino Blade. And it's literally dinosaurs fighting with swords. And it's like, I've only seen, you know, videos and animations on Reddit, but it looks fucking cool. So when that comes out, maybe we'll play it. Dino Blade sounds hella fun. Such a silly idea, though. Dinosaurs with swords. I guess we have crazier ideas. Well, skill issue. They have the sword in their mouth. They're like, right? Think of your dog with a chew toy and it's like, ah. I think I remember seeing one with a bow, too. Like, it was like a little raptor. And it held the bow in its arms. And then it, like, pulled the drawstring back with its teeth mouth. Here. Has to take it, because the danger levels are... Fuck. How else do we attack? Are you looking at it now, skill issue? Dino Blade? It looks cool! It looks super cool! The people on Reddit fucking cooked. Right? That game dev cooked up a really cool looking game. Why is it this? We take here. Don't know why that's the answer. It bothers me. Huh? Oh, okay. I'm big dumps. Alright, later, skill issue. Actually, it has been... Oh my god, we've already been streaming 2 hours. Okay. I think I am probably gonna call it there. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I hope you had fun. I will be back, like I said, Friday, to play that new Hololive game that came out, you know, a couple months ago. And I hope, even if you can't make it, I hope you have a good time, and I hope you have a good night. So, thanks all, and I'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Later, Pen Boot.